We live in a clown world, as demonstrated by Donald Trump's re-election, and now Donald Trump has pretty much set the stage with his new clown cabinet, and he has been announcing names over the past several days, and it's an absolute disaster. To name a couple of them, Governor Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security, Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary, Matt Gaetz, the guy you never want anywhere near your kids, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, seriously, these names are just laughable, and it's embarrassing. Now, if we look at a couple of these names, some of them really stick out as being particularly atrocious. For one, Pete Hegseth has been named the Defense Secretary, and this guy does not have very much experience. He was an infantry officer in the Minnesota National Guard, and then he was a Fox News host. Now he is going to be Defense Secretary. Okay. Keep in mind that this is also the same guy that reportedly persuaded Trump to pardon 3 American soldiers accused or convicted of war crimes related to the shooting of non-combatants in Iraq. So this guy is just not experienced. He's given terrible advice to Trump in the past, and pretty much because he's just a Trump loyalist who spends half of his day deep-throating Trump's cock, he somehow got this position. He somehow got nominated here. And even worse is when you listen to this guy's opinions on women.
You don't like women in combat?
No.
Why not?
I love women service members who contribute amazingly because everything about men and women serving together makes the situation more complicated, and complication in combat means casualties are worse. And when you actually go into the hood, again, and I got response. I've got 99% positive response to this. A little bit of pushback, but when you actually break down what they did in the studies to open the door for women in combat, I mean, they just ignored them. So the Marine Corps...
This is not true at all. So here is a little bit more detail, and this better clarifies what this weirdo is even talking about. Army approves reduced physical fitness standards for women and older soldiers. Following a 3-year review, the Army has scrapped plans to use the same physical fitness test for all soldiers, choosing instead to have some reduced standards to allow women and older soldiers to pass. So again, you have a test that was even unfairly excluding not just women, but also other service members. Other people that actually wanted to serve in the military were being excluded because the standards were so ridiculously high. The decision follows a RAND-led study that found men were more easily passing the new, more difficult Army combat fitness test compared to women and older soldiers who were failing at noticeably higher rates. So when he says, they actually reduced the standards, ha ha ha, no, they really didn't. They instead tried to implement the exact same standards across the board, which then unfairly excluded other service members, so they adapted the standards. Service leaders hoped the newer test, the first such change in more than 40 years, would better replicate tasks needed for combat while reducing the risk of injuries. But the new fitness curriculum was quickly criticized after it became clear women, older male soldiers, and National Guard and Reserve troops had difficulty passing it. So even the National Guard, reserves, older soldiers, and women, all of these people were struggling with this new test after they decided to change it.
I mean, they just ignored them. So the Marine Corps was the only service that actually tried to fight back and say, and now obviously I'm exempting special operations, which thus far has held the line fairly well. Because if they were lowering the standard to become a Navy SEAL, just to let women inside the Navy SEALs, that's going to change the capabilities and ethos of the Navy SEALs, except for a very small example of some, female super soldier who's capable of doing it. But because of how Washington works, they're going to change the standards. They're going to push for quotas. We have numerous quotes in the book of, these standards aren't changing. They're just evolving. Okay, they're just evolving.
Okay.
Well, keep in mind, again, that it was the military that actually tried to change the standards that then led to an unfair exclusion of other service members, so it was changed back.
To meet the needs of today.
They're not getting tougher.
They're not getting tougher. No. So they're getting lower Take someone like Milley. I mean, he was calling down...
What is he talking about? America is the #1 world superpower. We have the #1 most powerful military in the world. This is what conservatives always say this. They're like, well, if you start letting women in, the military is going to start getting weaker. Okay, where? When? We're still #1 after we've let women in. So can you please give me an example?
To individual units to make sure they had female company commanders after they graduated from Ranger School. Like, what's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs doing pushing company command slots for? It's all an agenda. It's all to say, oh, we have this first, or we have this, that. So that's...
No, actually, again, it's all about when diversity is properly implemented, innovation benefits significantly. And this is why I always go back to the diversity, innovation, military talking point when we have these arguments. By excluding women and trying to only allow men in, or straight white men or anything, by just excluding women or marginalized people, you're actually harming military cohesion. The obsession with gender identity and sexual orientation negatively affecting cohesion is actually what's harming cohesion, as is found by a peer-reviewed study conducted on the British Army. This creates a binary in which military personnel view themselves and each other as effective or ineffective based solely on their identity. This ultimately harms the goal of cohesion within the military, and in failing to respond to societal demands for inclusion, military officials are undermining the social legitimacy of the armed forces. So that's just one peer-reviewed study demonstrating how this obsession with keeping marginalized groups out of the military actually impacts negatively military cohesion. So according to Small Wars Journal, having multiple teams prevents groupthink, and competition can be a powerful motivator, including people from diverse backgrounds to mix different perspectives and areas of expertise is critical to thinking about new ways to use existing things. The unencumbered minds are generally the most capable ones to deconstruct existing paradigms. So again, from a war journal, that is even going into detail about how diversity leads to innovation, because when everybody looks the same, they perceive the ideas to be the same, and that actually hinders innovation. It leads to groupthink. In a study conducted in 2003, Orlando Richard, a professor of management at the University of Texas at Dallas, and his colleagues surveyed executives at 177 national banks in the US, then put together a database comparing financial performance, racial diversity, and the emphasis the bank presidents put on innovation. For innovation-focused banks, increases in racial diversity were clearly related to enhanced financial performance. So as is the case with any large organization, a group of people working together as a team from diverse backgrounds, that leads to innovation, and that applies to the military the same way that it applies to banks, massive corporations, companies, etc.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated. We've all served with women, and they're great. It just, our institutions don't have to incentivize that in places where traditionally, not traditionally, over human history, men in those positions are more capable. I'm straight up.
So that's really the gist of his approach when it comes to women in the military, is that they're just not good. They're not effective. Now, I did some digging into this subject a little bit more. First and foremost, there's a study that was conducted back in 2015 by the US Marine Corps. And basically, this study apparently concluded that women were just not nearly as capable or skilled in the military as opposed to male units. That when the units were all women or a mix of women and men, they all underperformed compared to the group of all males. However, that study, although frequently referenced, is pretty fundamentally flawed. According to critics who received hundreds of pages of leaked data from the controversial trials, they say that the study is fundamentally flawed. So the first flaw with this was that they did not properly screen the participants. So the women in the combat roles, those women may have not even been properly trained for combat roles. They were just placed in those roles for the sake of the test. So already that's a completely unfair comparison. The Corps' decision to release only a 4-page summary of its study, which focused on negative aspects of women as Marines, while keeping the bulk of the study under wraps, was a hugely problematic decision. One of the report's released conclusions found that the integration of females will add a level of risk in performance/effectiveness and cost the bottom line, blah, blah, blah. Other pages from the report, however, indicate that women were not expected to pose problems for ground combat units so long as clear standards, diligent screening of candidates, and good training and leadership were in place. According to the data shared with The Guardian, the study also showed that some women excelled during tests, such as hiking quickly with heavy loads and firing artillery under simulated enemy attack, while mixed Marine units showed superior morale and problem solving and better discipline than units composed only of male Marines. So even the study that's commonly cited by conservatives and other dodo birds to say that, hey, women don't belong here, even that study actually found that women did bring some benefits here, but for some reason this study only released the summary focusing on the negatives. And then elsewhere, this is really interesting, talking about diversity and innovation, the study found that gender integration across all units would bring with it many of the general benefits of diversity that we experience across the spectrum of the workforce. The bulk of the data has not been released, and even more so, this cheesy little study differed greatly from virtually all the other research looking at militaries of other Western countries. So if we go here, something as simple as Wikipedia, I know, people hated that I use it, but it's so helpful. If you just go somewhere as simple as Wikipedia and just go to debates, you can scroll through all the different concerns, and there's literally data counteracting pretty much every fucking claim made by all of these dumb fuck conservatives. It just goes to show that conservatives don't read. Conservatives don't want to read or do any research. There are studies and tests of the combat performance of female and male units conducted in Norway, Germany, and 8 other EU countries. From 2011 to 2015, they show that female units' performance is almost equal to that of men, as all female and mixed units showed almost the same results as all male units, without any significant difference between the both sexes. A study within the British Army found that women performed comparatively worse when it came to physically demanding tasks. However, there have been contradicting results around unit cohesion from various studies in other countries, including in a year-long study in the United States Marine Corps, which also found that all male combat groups perform better than mixed groups, being more accurate, hitting targets, faster at climbing over obstacles, and better at avoiding injuries. The study found that women were twice as likely to suffer injuries significant enough to remove them from duty, etc., etc. However, the data was questioned because it contrasted with data from other countries. Research disproves the myth of lower shooting accuracy, with several all-female teams from 5 countries performing better results in shooting accuracy in combat than all-male groups. So here you have this Marine Corps study that they never actually gave us the data to, that they apparently didn't properly screen the women for, and this weird little niche study is out now saying, hey, women are bad for the military. Meanwhile, far greater, far bigger, and more in-depth studies have found the complete opposite. A 2018 Australian study found nearly complete overlap in the performance of female versus male recruits. The detected gender-related differences were negligible to small in size. So there's quite a lot of data from various different countries that have disproven what this one little study said. This weird Pete Seth guy is over here now just claiming that like women are bad for the military, even though that's just completely false. So not only is Pete Hegseth absolutely ridiculous when it comes to women's roles in combat, he's also ridiculous when it comes to washing his hands.
As I told you, my 2019 resolution is to say things on air that I say off air. I don't think I've washed my hands for 10 years. Really, I don't really wash my hands ever.
Help me!
No, I inoculate myself. It's just not, germs are not a real thing. I can't see them, therefore they're not real.
So you're becoming immune?
Yeah, that is a real clip of the new defense secretary admitting that he never washes his hands. Maybe this is actually why he was given that position. It seems as though this guy is on his own mission to create a new bioweapon. He's not even fucking washing his hands. He says he can't see germs, so they're not real. Well, I guess God isn't real. Another really pathetic name is Governor Kristi Noem. She's been given the position of Secretary of Homeland Security, and if you're not yet familiar with Governor Kristi Noem, I'm sorry, but you're about to be. She recently came in a bunch of controversy earlier this year because she published a book in which she talked about shooting a dog Trump's Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, is officially a bigger menace to pets than Haitian immigrants ever were. So here's Kristi Noem sitting down with Jesse Waters discussing that very controversy.
Now, what happens if you are debating Kamala Harris and she says, well, wait a second, you shot your dog and you wrote a book about it, bragging about it. How can you be vice president?
You know, that story was a choice as a mom. The safety of my children versus a dangerous dog that was killing livestock and attacking people. So this book that I've...
Oh my. And now she's going to be in charge of Homeland Security? I hate to know how she plans on handling anything she might deem as a threat to America. And yeah, it was a 14-month-old puppy that she shot because she couldn't train it. Or in other words, she was too fucking lazy or too much of a shitbag to even train a dog, so she just killed it.
So this book that I've written is full of stories of my past, hard decisions, and I told the truth. And I think that's very different than a lot of politicians that we have today.
Do you regret telling that story? Do you feel like, oh, maybe I should have said it? Do you understand why people...
And I told the truth. You know, a lot of politicians, they just don't do it. There's also such a thing as, like, some things just don't need to be said. You know, like, if you were the president, you were like, guess what? I had a massive shit today. I had diarrhea, and now I'm constipated. And I'm saying that as a politician and as a president because it's time we get honest. It's time we're just truthful about stuff, you know? It's like there's some things you could just, you can just not say. That is still an option.
Don't like that story?
Well, everybody's known that story for years. That's what most people don't realize is that in South Dakota, they've used that story to attack me in my political campaigns for years.
Yeah. So first of all, that doesn't make you look any better. If they've been using this to attack you for a while, probably means it's something that kind of works. Also, you're claiming that you tell the truth. You also lied that you met Kim Jong-un and stared him down when you never did anything like that. And even more so, after she killed the dog, she went on to then shoot a goat. Apparently she was bloodthirsty. Quote, Cricket was a wire hair pointer about 14 months old. So it was a puppy, adding that the dog, a female, had an aggressive personality and needed to be trained to be used for hunting pheasant. And also, if the dog needs to be trained for hunting, why are you not then training the dog for hunting? Do that instead of shooting the dog. Maybe train the dog to hunt instead of hunting the dog. By taking Cricket on a pheasant hunt with older dogs, Noem says she hoped to calm the young dog down and begin to teach her how to behave. Fortunately, Cricket ruined the hunt, going out of her mind with excitement, chasing all those birds and having the time of her life. Noem describes calling Cricket, then using an electronic collar to attempt to bring her under control. Nothing worked. So again, this is not a dog that's vicious with rabies attacking children. This is a dog that's just not trained, that's rowdy and excited. And then the dog began attacking and killing the family's chickens. When she finally grabbed the dog, she says the dog then whipped around to bite her. Then as the chicken's owners wept, Noem repeatedly apologized, wrote the shocked family a check, and helped them dispose of the carcasses littering the scene of the crime. Through it all, Noem says Cricket was the picture of pure joy, and then she says, I hated that dog. Proving that the dog was untrainable, dangerous to anyone who came in contact with it, and less than worthless as a hunting dog. And that moment, Noem says, I realized I had to put her down. It was not a pleasant job, but it had to be done. And after it was over, I realized another unpleasant job needed to be done. Incredibly, Noem's tale of slaughter is not finished. No! Stop, She's literally acting like the pet assassin. Her family, she writes, also owned a male goat that was nasty and mean because it had not been castrated. Oh no, is she gonna castrate the goat or kill the goat? I don't know which is gonna be worse. Furthermore, the goat smelled disgusting, musky? Elon Musky? Disgusting, musky, rancid, and loved to chase Noem's children, knocking them down and ruining their clothes. Again, if we're gonna start shooting things for being disgusting and smelly, Kristi Noem, run. Noem decided to kill the unnamed goat the same way she had just killed Cricket the dog. But though she dragged him to the gravel pit, the goat jumped as she shot and therefore survived the wound. Noem says she went back to her truck, retrieved another shell, then hurried back to the gravel pit and put him down. At that point, Noem writes, she realized a construction crew had watched her kill both animals. The startled workers swiftly got back to work, only for a school bus to arrive and drop off her kids. That's this lady. basically acting like a rabid pit bull herself, that she's just like writing in her memoir, like, oh, then I murdered this animal and I killed this dog. Yeah, I'm just left wondering if Kristi Noem couldn't even control her dog. How the fuck is she supposed to control the border? And if that's not bad enough, Elon Musk and Vivek Ram Swamp Weasel working together in this new branch of the government, Department of Government Efficiency. The guy who shot a car into space is going to teach us how to be efficient and efficiently use our resources? The dude that has like 26 illegitimate children is going to teach us how to be efficient? I don't even know what to say. It just seems at this point like Trump is just like letting all of his little rich buddies in. It's like the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, but the Donald Trump Clubhouse, and it's just all of Trump's little goons hanging out with him. Elon Musk, if it wasn't already bad enough, if he wasn't already just a cringe lord enough, he decided to name himself the first buddy of the White House. Elon Musk, you aren't a golden retriever, bro. First buddy Elon Musk is already pissing everyone off at Mar-a-Lago. Elon Musk's election bets paid off the instant Donald Trump was reelected, but even as the richest man in the world sits on the edge of enormous political power, Musk can't seem to escape the essential fabric of his being, a deeply unlikable personality. So according to multiple reports, Musk is everywhere you turn at Mar-a-Lago, from the resort's gift shop to nearly every meeting. The constant presence has also extended to social media, where Musk calls himself the first buddy and appears in photos with Trump's grandchildren. Dude, he's like that annoying guy who's like, hi, we're all friends, right? You're my best friend. He's like Donkey in the beginning of Shrek, and he's just not getting it. Everyone else is like, who is this guy? Why is he here? They're like, did he not realize his flight left last week? He's just like, hey, buddies, yo, coffee without me? All this paired with the tech billionaire's apparent inability to keep an opinion private has proven so overbearing that NBC News reports Trump insiders are fed up with Musk's relentless efforts to force what they see as a personal agenda. Damn, it's almost like appointing somebody who is a billionaire and generally works to enrich themselves is then going to use their power and political position to further enrich themselves. I'm blindsided. Such descriptions aren't exactly surprising to anyone who's been forced to pay attention to Musk's antics over the years. The tech billionaire is as known for his wealth as he is for his rabid trolling behavior. One quote from NBC appears to at least hint at such a shaky ground that Elon Musk may be walking on. Quote, he's behaving as if he's co-president and making sure everyone... Oh, I just can't get over this. It's just so catty sounding. You're not president, that's me. He's behaving as if he's a co-president and making sure everyone knows it, one source said, adding that Musk is sure taking lots of credit for the president's victory, bragging about American PAC and X to anyone who will listen. He's trying to make President Trump feel indebted to him, and the president is indebted to no one. Elon Musk is just pushing his luck so hardcore. He's like, Trump, are you proud of me? Haha, I got you elected, Trump. Trump, are you proud of me? Give me belly scratches. Another source told Politico that Elon is getting a little big for his britches. We're talking about Trump's cabinet picks. Elon Musk is right here, front and center going, pick me. Pick me. Because he is the pick me. He's the ultimate pick me. But long story short, Trump's cabinet picks is pretty much just a cabinet of clowns.